are actually targeting to quickly do a walkthrough on the roadmap, which actually shows you that if you want to migrate yourself from an existing tool to Playwright, or else if you are new to completely, right, if you don't have any knowledge towards automation, and if you want to upgrade yourself, you're already working, and if you are into manual, and if you want to upgrade yourself, right, okay, let me just make it as an talk in a step-by-step approach, so you will understand it. So before getting into this session, right, a little bit just a small intro about me is I have around 18 years of experience in IT as an SDET, and I worked with multiple tools, like I worked with Selenium with Java, Python, Robot browser library, Request, and as well as Rest Assured, and Playwright with JS, Playwright with TS, and as well as Playwright with Python. And currently, right, I was I'm working as a technical architect for one of the product-based organization. So I don't want to waste your time by getting into more details on my personal introduction. So let me just quickly start. So I am today, right, our target is like we need to understand, we say Playwright automation testing, right? So we say Playwright automation testing. So if I need to write Playwright, if I need to learn Playwright automation testing, right, first you need to understand what we need to learn as part of your as part of this automation testing, which is nothing but where I'm going to show you the roadmap, that what we are going, why we need to learn these tools or components as part of your Playwright testing. And we are going to map this roadmap as part of your CI/CD architecture. And so nowadays, right, whenever you're going to design any automation solution, right, we need to ensure that it is adapting to this CI/CD architecture. So majorly, right, I'll cover these things. And then I will also quickly show you, even though there are many people who are actually in real practice, right? So just I'll quickly also show you that where exactly we do this automation and why this is important as part of our testing. So let me just make it very, very simple. So it's like, see, normally, right, we say a software application, right? If I say software application, right, the people actually, right, means when you go through any blogs or tutorials, right, people define it in multiple ways. But some people say it is nothing but a collection of modules. Some people say collection of programs. Some people say collection of packages. And if I need to make it very simple, right, I can make it. It is nothing but a collection of a certain group of functionalities. Okay, I can make it a certain group of it is nothing but a collection of functionalities. Now in our real practice, right, whenever I need to develop any software application, okay. So if I need to develop any software application, right, we actually follow a process. That process is nothing but what we actually call it as SDLC. Or it is nothing but what we actually call it as a software development life cycle. Software development life cycle. Now, under this, right, again, we see different types of methodologies. It means under this, right, again, we see different types of methodologies, where one of the methodology is nothing but Agile. So under this, right, again, we have a lot of flavors. Okay, we have, again, under Agile, right, we see a lot of flavors. Like we see Agile XP, we see Agile Scrum methodology, we see Agile Kanban. We see Agile Kanban methodology, or else we see Agile Safe. We have, again, there are a lot of flavors which actually uses the base of your Agile. And under this, right, again, we see different, right? Now, whatever the methodology it can be, whatever the methodology that we use, under this, right, we have multiple stages. We actually follow some stages, which we also call it as many people, right, they actually define it as phases. They actually define it as phases. Now under this, right, if I need to quickly go through those phases, right, the first stage is nothing but what we actually call it as the requirements gathering stage. Okay, and then the second stage is nothing but the analysis stage. And the third stage is nothing but the design stage. And the fourth stage is nothing but the coding, or what we actually say development phase. And then the testing phase. And then the release. and finally we do maintenance. So these are nothing but different stages under to your SDLC. Okay, and under to this, right, whatever that you see, right, one of the stage is nothing but what we are actually calling it as the testing, right? This is nothing but what we actually call it as the software testing, or we also call it as the system testing. Now, as an SDET, right, our role is nothing but we actually perform software testing, or what we actually call it as the system testing. Now, under this, right, again, we will see two types, right? One is nothing but what we actually call it as a functional, and the second one is nothing but what we actually call it as a non-functional testing. So, majorly, right, whenever you're learning any tools in the market, right, people majorly target this functional testing, because we see a lot of positions under to this particular functional testing. Okay, so that is the reason, right? If I need to perform functional testing, right, whenever you see any application, now let us say which is nothing but what we actually call it as software, which we are also calling it as software application. Now, whenever we see any software application, right, it has three layers, right, or what we can say it as three components. One is nothing but your UI, which is what we actually call it as the front end user interface. Second one is nothing but API, which is nothing but what we actually call it as application programming interface. And the third one is nothing but the DB, which is also called as the database, or what we also call it as data layer, or what we actually call it as data layer. Okay, so now you see, right, we actually see these three layers like user interface, application programming interface, and as well as data layer. Now, if I'm going to test the functionalities of my application, if I need to test the functionalities of my application from all these three layers, UI, API, and as well as the DB, right? We actually call them as full stack testers, full stack functional testers. We actually call them as full stack functional testers. Now, under to this criteria, right? So under to this criteria, right? Whenever I need to test any application functionalities, right? I need to test UI, I need to test API, and I need to test DB. Now, if I need to test this, right? Again, I can test that using the two ways. One way is nothing but what we actually say, right? You actually test it manually by performing some actions. Second one is you can actually automate it. We can actually automate it. What is this automation means? See, if I need to test something, right, we actually identify different conditions, which are nothing but what we actually call it as the test cases. Now, if you are going to convert these test cases into scripts, so if you run that particular script, right, it will actually test your application that what you do manually. So this is nothing but what we actually say it as automation testing. Automation testing. Now, this is very, very basic. See, there may be few people who are completely new, right? So I just want to show them that where we inject this automation testing. Now, under to this, right, if you see, right, if I say UI, and if I say API, and if I say DB, okay, if I say DB. So these are nothing but the three, right, where I need to perform functional testing. And if I say DB, right, many people, right, if you are already working, right, people are in a confusion. So here, right, again, you will see two types of DB testing. One is nothing but what we actually call it as core DB testing, and second one is nothing but UI interactive DB testing. So as a functional tester, right, we are actually responsible for performing this UI interactive functional testing. We are actually responsible for doing this UI interactive functional testing. So now if you see here, right, now under to this. Now anyway, if I need to do automation testing, right, so first basic thing here is you need to understand in your real practice, right, you will see different types of applications. You will see different types of applications. Now, under to this, right, you majorly see standalone, which are nothing but what we actually call it as desktop-based applications, Second one is nothing but web-based applications. Third one is nothing but mobile-based applications. We have a lot of types in that, right? Majorly, right, you actually see these types of applications. Now, anyway, if I need to talk with respect to Playwright, right, we can actually test the web applications. Okay, so if I say web application means any application which you are accessing through browser. So browser is a client where you can access it using your Chrome browser, Firefox, IE, or or WebKit. It's like any Mac relevant browsers, right? WebKit. If you are able to access your application on any of these browsers, right, we actually say that application as a web application. Now, if I need to test that application, if I need to test majorly, right, the Playwright tool is mainly developed to perform web application testing. So if I need to test that particular web applications, right, now under the web, right, you will see UI, you will see API, and you will see DB. Okay, and if I need to perform UI, right, I can use Playwright. Normally, right, we actually use Playwright. And the second thing, right, if I need to perform API, right, we actually use Playwright. Under the Playwright, right, we have a module called request module. We have a module called request. If you use this module, right, you can also perform API testing. And the third one is nothing but DB. We actually use some additional libraries, JS libraries, which we actually call it as modules or packages, through which you can also perform DB testing. DB testing. If I say here DB testing means it's very simple. You can also perform UI interactive DB testing. And another important thing here is whenever I'm going to use the Playwright, right, you may need to run some actions on UI, and you may need to also validate a few actions by hitting an API. So using Playwright, right, you can also perform UI plus API integration testing. It means you can run some part of your test on UI and some part of a test by hitting those APIs to validate it. So you can also perform UI and plus API integration testing as well using Playwright. And then the next one is nothing but you can also use Playwright for performing visual testing, where I can compare screen to screen, and I can identify UI deviations. I can identify UI deviations. It can be alignment, color coding, or font size, anything, right? If I need to identify deviations by comparing a screen to screen of your application of two environments, right? I can do that using visual testing. And another important thing here is, see, many people, right, are in a confusion. Normally, right, we say cross-browser testing. If you use Playwright, right, you can also perform cross-browser testing. We actually perform cross-browser testing. So what do you mean by this cross-browser testing? See, many people are in a confusion. We always see cross-browser, and we also see a term called compatibility. Both are different. Cross-browser testing means you are going to test your application on multiple browsers. Okay, on multiple browsers. If I say compatibility means if I'm going to test my application compatibility, if I'm going to test application compatibility on the same browser with different versions. So normally, right, see, compatibility, if I need to achieve compatibility, right, we actually use Docker. We should also use Docker to achieve this, but Playwright will defaultly support this cross-browser testing. So let me just make it simple. So here, right, whenever I need to implement an automation testing, right, whenever I need to implement automation testing, using if I need to implement automation testing, we can, if it is a web application, we can actually use Playwright. We can actually use Playwright through which you can do your testing. And the second step here is using this, right, you can perform UI, you can perform API automation, you can perform DB, UI interactive automation testing. You can perform visual testing. You can also perform UI plus API integration testing. You can also perform UI and API integration testing. And you can also perform cross-browser testing. Cross-browser testing. You can also perform compatibility testing if you are also using Docker to run your Playwright tests. So these are nothing but the different testings that what we do using your Playwright. What we actually do using your Playwright. And very important thing here is, see, people say SDET, right? SDET means the software development engineer test. So their main intention is that you should be as a full stack functional tester. Full stack functional tester. And just it is not relevant to what in a Playwright. But normally, right, here, right, I'm simply saying that you need to learn this set to claim yourself as a functional tester. Whenever I say FDET, right, it represents a full stack tester. It means majorly their intention is that you should be in a position to perform functional, and you should be also in a position to perform a non-functional testing. You should also have knowledge to perform non-functional testing. You should be also in a position to perform non-functional testing. Is this not clear? So this is what if you try to attend any interviews, or if you're trying to attend any project within your organization, right? Any new projects, right? Their expectation is that you should have knowledge as a full stack tester, where under to functional, right, you will cover UI, API, and as well as DB. And under to non-functional, testing, right? Their main intention is you should have knowledge on performance. You should have knowledge to perform performance testing. You should have knowledge to perform compatibility testing. Compatibility testing. And you should have knowledge to compatibility testing. And you should also have knowledge to perform accessibility testing. And you should also have knowledge to perform this visual visual testing. And another important, right, nowadays, right, a major number of organizations are also adding this multi-language testing, where we actually perform localization testing, right? That is also becoming popular as applications are becoming global to access on different locations, right? So these all under to non-functional. Anyway, our current roadmap is towards to Playwright. So we are actually going to show you as a roadmap that what you need to learn as part of your Playwright automation testing. Playwright automation testing. And here, right, see, it is not only about the Playwright. You should also understand that how you are going to use AI with your Playwright to speed up your automation testing. To speed up your automation testing. Okay, to speed up your automation testing. So I'll give you that list, that what you need to learn as part of, if you want to claim yourself as a Playwright automation tester. See here, right, this list is minimal. So wherever you learn, even though if you're doing a self-learning, or even though if you're learning, right, this is the minimum set that you need to have to claim yourself as an automation tester using Playwright. Okay. So it's like, so first, right, you need to understand Playwright. You need to understand Playwright. So Playwright is a library, or else you can say it is a module or a package, that has its own client binding. It means like it can be used with multiple languages. For example, if you are good with Java, right, you can use Playwright with Java. You can use Playwright with Python. You can also use Playwright with JS. You can also use Playwright with JavaScript or TypeScript. You can also use Playwright with .NET as well. You can also use Playwright with .NET as well. Now here, right, if I need to categorize it, you may get wondered, sir, we are already working as an automation testers, and we are very good in Java. We had used Selenium with Java, and as well as we already worked around 5 years or 10 years into the same, using Selenium with Java, right? So you may think that if I want to migrate, right, I can quickly learn Playwright using Java. You can learn it, but it again depends, right? Here, right, you need to see the two sides of the coin. It's like, see, it doesn't mean that whatever that I learn, right, that is required in the market. So I should see the other side of the coin as well. Whatever that is required in the market, right, I should align my learning towards what market is really looking for. So if you ask me, right, if you see how many projects are there with Playwright, with when you're using Java language, right, it is near to 3 to 5%. Okay, I will simply say it is near to 3 to 5%. If you see with Python, right, it is near to 10%. If you see with JS and TS, right, it is almost near to 80% of your real projects, right, where they are actually using Playwright with JS or TS, right, it is near to 80%. See, JS and TS both are almost identical. So let me just put like this. If I want to use JS or TS, so which is nothing but what we actually call it as Node.js. Okay, Node.js, I'll tell you what difference that you see between Node.js, why we are saying Node.js, I'll tell you in another next 5 or 10 minutes. So you need to understand 80% of your positions which are open towards JS or TS. And you will see in .NET, right, if you see, right, it is also again fluctuating between 5 to 6%. So if you see, right, what market is actually looking for, right, so you may see this is the criteria or a percentage criteria that how we are using Playwright in our real practice. So it is always better, you need to always target where we have our positions open, right? So that is the reason, right? You majorly see, even though if you go to browse any tutorials on YouTube or any other learning platforms, right? You will majorly see Playwright with JS or TS. Okay. Now the second criteria is if I need to learn Playwright. So first step here is I need to learn Playwright. I need to learn all the Playwright methods, or else you can simply say the Playwright functions. How you are going to perform actions. So majorly, right? You need to understand how you are going to locate, how you are going to perform actions, how you are going to validate it. So majorly, right, at a high level, as a layman, right, if you want to learn it, right, you need to target for these 3 things. You need to learn all the functions or methods which are available under to Playwright, through which how you are able to locate, how you are able to perform actions, and how you are going to validate it. It means, if for example, I'm opening an application on let us say I had opened some web application. Let me just open any Chrome browser. Let us say I had opened some Chrome browser, and if I see, right, let us say I'm opening cleartrip.com site, or if I had opened google.com, or if I had opened amazon.com site, right? If you see, right, whatever that you see on your application, right, it indicates it is a functionality. Let us say if you see, right, search flights, one-way search flight, round trip search flight, or else search flight with unlock 10% savings, or search flight with the students, search flight with the senior citizens, search flight with armed officers, searching a flight using non-stop flights only. So these are like different functionalities, right? If you see, right, search flight is nothing but one of the functionality. And in the same way, right, after searching a flight, you will get list of flights. In that, right, you need to select any specific flight based upon your requirement. That is again another functionality. And once you select a flight, right, you may need to add passengers to the particular flight. And then you may also need to complete your payment and confirm your booking. So once you have booked the particular flight, right, again, you can cancel, you can edit, you can replan, you can postpone, or you can prepone, you can see history of flights. You can also remove partial passengers. Let us say you booked initially for 5. Now you can remove 3 members, and you can also rebook that for 2 members, right? All these are nothing but different functionalities. In the same way, right, if I need to book hotels, right, you can book a hotel, cancel in a hotel, replan in a hotel, or postpone or prepone your booking. Or else if you can also partially remove some members, right? It is like it is nothing but it represents that particular hotel's functionality. So whenever you see any web application, right? So if I need to do that action, let us say I want to perform search flight. I need to go and click on one way. I need to enter this Hyderabad, Bangalore, dates, and then I need to also click on search flight. So it means I need to perform some action, some set of actions in a sequence to do that functionality on my application. If I need to do those actions, right, the first step here is you need to locate those elements. It's like this web page, right? It contains different elements. Anything that you see on your application, let us say your Cleartrip logo, your offers link, business, or trips, support, login, anything what you see on your application, right? It can be a text, edit box, radio button, drop down, date picker, checkbox, or a button, or a link, or an image, or logo, or a text, where you can't perform any action. So anything that what you see in your application, right? It is nothing but an element or an object, right? First, I need to locate that element. If I need to locate it, right, I need to identify a unique value through which I can locate that element on my application. As of now, right, in layman terms, right, let us assume that I'm going to identify an address for it, which is unique, through which I can locate that element on my application. So we have different ways. Whenever you are using any UI tools, right, we have different ways to locate it. But normally, right, Playwright, again, it has its own perspective through which you can locate an element. Okay. So first step here is when you're learning your Playwright, right, first you need to understand how it locates its elements. In how many ways I can locate that particular element. And then the second step is nothing but what actions. It means, for example, I had located a link. I need to click on it. I located an edit box. I need to type some value on it. Or else I had located a drop down. I need to select a value from drop down. Or else I had located a button. I need to click on the particular button. So those are nothing but what we are actually calling it as an actions. And once you perform some group of actions, right, you need to validate it. If I say validate, right, in technical terms, right, we actually say assertions. Assertions means you are going to compare your expected value with your actual. So this actually tells you whether that particular test case got passed or failed, through which you are going to do your validations. So as part of Playwright, right, first you need to quickly understand how do we locate, how do you perform actions, and how do we validate it. But you may get to wonder, sir, this is common for every tool, right? Even if you learn Selenium, you follow the same approach. Even if you're learning Cypress, you follow the same approach. Even if you learn the same Playwright, or even if you learn any robot framework with Selenium or robot framework with browser library, so you follow the same approach. So here, right, you need to understand what you know. See, for example, if you're choosing any tool, right? So first step here is we do POC. POC means proof of concept. Let us say you're working in an organization. Let us say your leadership has given you an application and asking you to automate it. First, you need to submit your proof of concept, that how you're confirming that you can automate that application using this Playwright tool. Okay, you need to submit that POC. Then only we actually start automating that application using this Playwright. And as part of your Playwright, you need to learn that what you need to, how you need to locate, what are different ways to locate, and why we use only these prospective ways to locate elements in Playwright when you compare with other tools like Selenium or Cypress. See, because see here, right, very simple. In the market, right, you will see majorly these popular tools, right? One is Selenium, and second one is Cypress, and third one is Playwright. Okay, so I'm just picking out the latest 3 tools, and I was comparing it with these 3 tools as well, whatever that we are learning as part of your Playwright. So if you see, right, as part of your Playwright, right, you need to majorly understand the methods and as well as functions, which are already provided under those modules, through which you can automate by locating, by performing actions, and by performing validations. Now, second, if I want to implement any custom logic, using in your Playwright script, right, we should also learn a language. We should also learn a language. That is the reason, right? Majorly, right, as I said, people learn that with JS or TS. And the second criteria is we actually give it for Python. And the second criteria in the market, right? If I want to learn Playwright, right? If I don't want to do that with JS or TS, right, then the second priority will be given to Python. So very simple. You may get one doubt why we may need to go to Python. Why not with Java and why not with other tools like .NET, other languages like .NET? It is very simple. See, normally, right, there are purely functional testing cases where you need to validate it from UI, API, or DB. Then you can use Playwright with JS or TS. But there may be few applications where you may need to also validate your logs, whether it can be from Grafana or Logstash or from AWS or from any other cloud where you need to also validate your logs. So Python has very good library support through which you can easily connect to those cloud, and you can also retrieve the data as part of your validations. So if you, as part of your testing, as part of your test flow, right, if you see where you need to retrieve some data from cloud, and as well as you need to retrieve some data from your remote machines, and you need to validate some logs, or where you need to validate some data which is available as part of that particular remote machine, or as a cloud, right? In such scenarios, we actually choose Python, because Python libraries are very user-friendly, through which you can actually connect to any of your clouds, like AWS, Azure, or Cloudis, or any other tools, where any other cloud where we actually deploy our applications under to those servers, right? If I need to test them, then we actually use Python. See, there may be few scenarios. I don't know how many are getting or are understanding this. There may be few scenarios where you need to go one level, one level below. It's like not only on the UI part as a functional tester from UI, API, and as well as DB. You may also need to validate consumption of events from Kafka or Flink or Pinot, where you're going to extract real-time analytics. In such case, right, Python is the best language where we have a better library support through which you can automate them as well, to add checkpoints and add checkpoints as part of testing when you're interacting with such systems or servers. It depends upon your application that how you need to choose that whether you need to use Playwright with JS or TS, or whether you need to use Playwright with your Python, or whether you need to use Playwright with Python. So majorly, right, if you ask me, right, a straightforward scenario is like you will majorly see positions or options with Playwright with JS and TS as 80%, and 10 to 12%, right, it may fluctuate with Python. Because where you may need to also validate with some event-based tools like Kafka, Flink, or Pinot, or where you need to interact with log-based tools or monitoring tools like Logstash, Grafana, or APN. So whenever you're interacting to also validate those logs from your servers, right, then we actually prefer Python. So anyway, now initially, right, I'm going to give here your roadmap with Playwright with JS and as well as TS. Playwright with JS and as well as TS. So first step is you need to learn Playwright methods. Second step is you need to learn one language. It again depends. Whenever you're choosing any language, right? It again depends that what language that you are going to what language that you are going to prefer. If you ask me, right, if you want to crack, if you want to attend more interviews and as well as if you want to clear, right? If you ask me, right, you will see more number of options using JS or TS, JavaScript and as well as TypeScript. So both are same. It's like JS is nothing but subset of your TS. If you learn JS, right, you already covered 90% of your TS. With 10%, the additional features, right, if you understand them, right, you can code in both JS and as well as TS. So many people, right, they actually learn it using JS and as well as TS. Now the next criteria is, so now you got an idea on an Playwright, and then you got an idea that how you need to use that language. Now there will be some common scenarios whenever you're interacting with multiple applications, right? Like you may need to handle alerts, pop-ups, frames, windows, mouse actions, keyboard actions, reading data from different files like a JSON file or Excel file, or implementing writing your code by following some perspectives like data-driven or modularity or in a hybrid approach. Or whenever you're going to write your code, right, to increase reusability, we may need to write our code by following a page object model pattern, where the page object model pattern indirectly represents your modularity, how you are going to maintain your code across multiple components, which increases reusability and reduces maintenance. So the third part here is you need to understand some common scenarios which are common to any web application, that how you are able to handle it using your Playwright. And then you need to start writing your test cases on real applications. To understand, you should never stick to a single application. See, normally, right, whenever you go to any tutors or anyone, right, they will actually say, we will give you a project. You need to automate that application end to end. That is wrong perspective of learning. Because in real practice, right, you should never stick to a single application. You should keep on switching on different applications, and you need to practice your Playwright automation. Then only you will understand how you are able to interact with multiple set of elements which are observed on different applications, and you will become mastery in your Playwright. If you stick to any single application, right, it's like, again, you are limiting. For example, if that application has only 12 different types of elements, you will only have expertise to handle only those 12 types of elements. But in real practice, right, you don't see this, right? So for example, if you see Amazon, right, the perspective that how the elements are getting populated as dynamic or random on that application differs. That how Flipkart will populate them on your application. If you compare, right, with other tools, right, let us say if you take IRCTC, or if you take any flight booking sites like MakeMyTrip or Yatra.com, anything, right, the perspective that how they populate their data with in their web applications using different elements, the perspective is different when you compare one application with another application. So you should always practice whenever you learn the basic methods and scenarios, right, you should always try to switch on multiple applications. Then only that actually gives you expertise to handle any application which can be automated as part of your automation testing. So that is the reason we need to keep on keeping on real applications, and you need to practice that how you are able to automate it. And under the Playwright, right, see, normally, right, many people say Playwright has inbuilt recorder. Okay. Many people say we also have this recorder for Selenium as well. We also have this recorder for Cypress as well. Then what advantage that you get when you're using this recorder in your Playwright? Here, right, Playwright has an inbuilt locators whenever you're going to use this recorder, right, we have two, right? We have CodeGen, and second one is we also have Playwright CRX. So majorly, if you ask me, right, in real practice, we actually use this Playwright CRX. But when you go through any videos, tutorials, or any blogs, right, they'll majorly explain you only on CodeGen. But then we have some limitations. It means every time, right, you need to stop, you need to re-record it, and you need to navigate to that specific page. Then only you can use CodeGen. But if you use Playwright CRX, right, it is very user-friendly. From any page, right, you can quickly record and you can capture locator values through which you can speed up your scripted design. So in real practice, right, we actually use Playwright CRX for our scripted design. Okay, and then the next part here is, now I got the idea that how I need to use the tool, and then I got an idea that I'm going to write my custom logics whenever it is required using JS or TS. And then I'm able to handle some common scenarios which are common to your application, like mouse actions, keyboard actions, alerts, frames, pop-ups, what are all these, right? Whatever we normally see as part of different applications, right? Now you need to write your code by following some structure. So normally, right, if you use Selenium or if you use any other language, any other tools, right, we need to also learn on unit testing frameworks. So here, right, whenever you're going to use your Playwright, it is not required that again you need to learn a unit testing framework separately, because your Playwright you will inbuilt get with your unit testing framework called Mocha, which is a JavaScript based framework, which is a unit testing framework in your JS. So your Playwright will inbuilt get these Mocha features. So it is not required again. You need to use some other libraries through which you need to achieve these features. So you need to understand what are those Playwright features that we are able to use, like how do you perform parallel execution, specifying a test directory, running selective test cases, rerunning only failed cases, performing a retry of only failed test cases, generating reports in different format, in HTML, list format, dot format, line format, JSON format, XML format. And as well as we are also going to see how you are going to give a global timeout, action timeout, validation, the assertion timeout, action timeout. And we are also going to see that how you can also use storage state. It means these all are like the most advanced features that what we have in your Playwright, through which you can minimize your execution time and speed up your execution. Means reduce your execution time by using these features. So we have around 16 or 18 features which can be enabled by just enabling a flag in your Playwright project. So you need to understand all those features. Let us say if I want to use any third-party reporting mechanism like Alluri reports, how you need to enable that as part of your Playwright to generate Alluri reports. Okay, so like we have around 16 to 18 sub-concepts under to this. You need to also explore all those features, that how you are going to use it. Now in real practice, right, now I have basics, like I know Playwright, what methods we have, how to locate, how to perform action, how to validate it. I also have language basics like JS and TS, and using this JS and TS, right, if I want to write some logic, we actually use the basics of this language. If I want to write that code, we actually write that code by following object-oriented programming. So you need to learn JS and TS in these two perspectives. So for example, if you got any problem, you need to understand if I need to solve that problem, what logic I need to inject. Second is, whenever I'm injecting any solution for it, right, if I need to reuse it, how I need to write that in reusable format. So you need to understand this JS and TS, the basics of language, which are nothing but your common principles. And then you should also understand how you're going to write your code using object-oriented perspective. Object-oriented perspective. Okay, now the next criteria is, so anyway, I'm not getting into detail, but I'm just giving you a roadmap. I will also share you the detailed sub-concepts that you need to learn, even though if you're doing it as a self-learner, or even though if you want to claim yourself as an expert in Playwright, right? What you need to learn, right? That content I'll share you. But first you need to understand that why we are learning all these as part of our automation testing. My main agenda is you need to understand why we are listing out all these, right? For that, right? I'm just not typing your sub-concepts. Now, if you go back, right, now whenever I need to write my code, right, I need to follow some framework, which is nothing but some proper structure through which you can increase reusability and reduce maintenance of your automation code. Here, right, you need to understand how you are going to design your automation framework in TTD approach, means the test-driven development approach, or else how you are going to write your code using BDD, which is also called as feature-driven, or also which is also called as acceptance test-driven, using Cucumber JS. We'll also cover Cucumber JS, where you will see there are around 26 subconcepts under to this. How you can use Cucumber JS with your Playwright. It again, see here, right? If you ask me, right, is it really required that we need to learn all these flavors, that how you need to design DDD and how you need to do BDD? It again depends upon years of experience that you're claiming. If your years of experience is less than 5, if you're good with the TDD approach, where Playwright inbuilt has mocha, that is more than enough. But if you're claiming yourself that you have more than 5 years, if you're near to 8, 10, or 12 years of experience into automation testing or as a testing, right? You should also ensure that I also have good knowledge in designing BDD as well with your Playwright. So we cover these two as well. This is like you should also have knowledge on these two perspectives. That how you are going to design it using a Mocha. It means you are directly using a Playwright library which has these features. And if I want to give it as this one, right, I need to use Playwright with Cucumber JS. And then whenever you're going to define some structure, right, we actually define some components. So we actually define some components which actually helps us to reuse those components whenever it is required when you're designing any new test cases. Okay, so you should also learn about the framework components and why we are categorizing and how it should be categorized when you're designing it as an UI framework, when you're designing it as an API framework, when you're designing it as an UI plus API framework, when you're designing it as a visual, when you're designing it for a cross-browser testing. Okay, so you need to understand those framework components. And then the next criteria is, now you will prepare a structure for it and you're able to define a proper framework. Now I need to maintain that code into common repository. So you need to learn GitHub. So why we actually try GitHub means it is very simple. If you are able to learn GitHub, right, you can use Bitbucket. Okay, you can use Bitbucket. Let me just put it as a sub concept, because if you learn these basics, right, you can use Bitbucket, you can use GitLabs, you can use Azure DevOps, which is actually used as part of your source code repositories. So here, right, we are going to learn Git, and we are going to learn it using a Git client, where we actually call it as Git Bash. So you're going to see in detail that what is Git client and Git repo and what commands that you actually use from your Git Bash or terminal, through which you are able to interact with your source code repository. So if you learn this, right, you can use any other tools where we actually use base as Git, like Bitbucket or GitLab or Azure DevOps. And then we will also see that how you're going to perform your Playwright test execution remotely using GitHub Actions, how you can trigger those tests using Jenkins, and how you can run your Playwright tests using Docker. As I said, right, in real practice, right, we actually use Docker to perform your executions. So I'm not sure that how many are getting understand, but I'll just give you an example. It's like in real practice, right, we maintain our clusters using Kubernetes. If I say Kubernetes, right, let me just make it as under Kubernetes, right, you can create multiple clusters. And each cluster, right, again, it has multiple nodes. Each node, right, again, it has each node can be divided as multiple pods. And each pod, right, each pod can have multiple nodes. Now, each node is considered as a mission. So if I need to deploy these images into those nodes, and if I want to run them in parallel, or if I want to run them as compatibility testing, we should also have knowledge on Docker, that how you are going to trigger your Playwright tests using a Docker. So that is the reason you need to also have knowledge in your real practice, right? If your application is an enterprise application where you need to test on multiple regions, or if your application has multiple regions, or else you can simply say it has multiple, the term is nothing but personas, where you are able to access it with different languages on different regions. And if that regions has its own customizations on your product, if I need to do that enterprise level of testing, right, you should also learn this Docker. Okay, you should also learn this Docker and how you are going to run your test cases on Docker. So it is nothing but you need to learn Docker and with Playwright how you are able to perform your executions. Now this is your core part where you actually understand. If you learn these tools, right, you're able to implement CI/CD architecture. CI/CD architecture. It means if you combine all these tools, right? If you combine all these tools, right, you can trigger your tests on daily basis. You can analyze them, and you can identify deviations around your application, or you can identify deviations with respect to your automation script, and you're able to fix them on daily basis to show an incremental fashion through which you are able to enable CI/CD approach. Okay, now this is what the traditional way of learning. So in a traditional way, right, if I need to learn it right, you need to learn the Playwright, language, common scenarios, real applications practice, and Playwright features, frameworks, and as well as framework components and the source code repository, Jenkins, GitHub Actions, and Docker. Okay. Now the next criteria is nowadays, right? We are saying AI. So see, AI is like it's like a mandatory nowadays, right? Whatever that you learn, even if you're a developer, you are a tester, or you are an SDET, or you are an SRE, site reliability engineer, or you are a DevOps engineer, central DevOps engineer, or else you are into a product management, or else you are a business analyst, or even though if we are into any other any other role which actually involve as part of your SDLC cycle, software development life cycle, right? You need to use UI. You need to use AI. It's like, say, for example, right? People have the different domains they work on. They may work in healthcare. They may work in engineering. They may work in IT. They may work in banking, logistics, insurance, financial sector. But AI, right, is common, right? They can use anywhere as part of their real usage, or to minimize their tasks, or to maximize the speed of delivery, right? So in the same way, right, if I need to do my automation as well, I can also use AI through which I'm able to speed up. So it's very simple. I'll tell you. It's like whenever I need to implement, if I need to implement AI, right? So let's make it this automation life cycle. Okay, it's like very simple. First step here is I need to identify. Okay, I need to identify automation candidates. It means I need to identify what I need to automate, right? So that is what I'm simply saying it as I need to identify the automation candidates. Okay, and then, right, I need to automate it. If I need to automate it, right, I need to design them as scripts. I need to execute them. And whenever I'm executing them, right, if I see any failures, I need to analyze and I need to fix those failures, right, which we actually call a term called healing. We actually say healing, right? Any failures, if you see, right, we are actually going to fix them. That is what we actually say it as a healing, right? So if I use AI, right, I can speed up all these without any manual intervention. So let me just make it simple. It means, right, if you get into your automation life cycle and if I'm trying to map it, right, you may be a little bit confused because if you don't have any idea onto any of these AI tools, right? So it's like first, right, you need to understand some basic, like what is an AI model? What is LLM? What do you mean by prompt? Okay, and what do you mean by agent? How you are going to use AI editors? And what editors are most popularly used in your market to speed up this automation life cycle? And as well as we are also going to see for example, let us assume that in your team, right, people do not have any knowledge on coding, but still they want to automate it. Then we can use the Playwright MCP, through which we can enable prompt-based automation. You can write it in a simple English as a prompt, so it actually automates your application and gives you the script. And we also got around 3 months before, right, we also have an official release from Playwright agents. Like we have 3 agents. One is nothing but a planner agent, through which it automatically writes your manual test cases. And then you also have an agent called generator, which automates your identified manual cases. And we also have a healer agent, which actually executes and fixes the failures that are observed during execution. And it's like, again, it depends. If you are below to 5 years, right, then the agentic knowledge through which you are able to use this predefined, right, it is sufficient. Or else, you need to also, if you are more than 5, right, or if you are near to 10 or 12, right, you should also have knowledge on Agentic AI, where you can use some frameworks like Crew.ai, through which you can prepare an agentic AI solution for your automation lifecycle, or else you also have some prompt-based frameworks, right? As I said, right, we have some prompt-based frameworks. You need to also explore some prompt-based predefined frameworks. And the second one is we also have a framework where you can write prompt and as well as code combinedly. We have a framework called Stagehand. Prompt-based framework, right? We have a framework called Browser Use. Okay, so these are like which can be used in your real practice to automate your application using Playwright with AI. Using Playwright with AI. So this is what that you need to understand. The usage means you need to also learn them that how you are going to use AI integratedly with your Playwright. Okay, so these are the things that what you need to understand and you need to learn as part of your Playwright roadmap. And you may think that, sir, we are seeing regularly, right? There are a lot of tools which are getting released in the market where they are showing that it is not required any manual intervention. We should always have a human in loop. And again, it depends upon your project where you're implementing it. It doesn't mean that using AI, right? If you are able to achieve it, right? It doesn't mean that in your project you can also use the AI. It again depends upon your project budget. Because see, normally, right? If I recruit an automation tester through which I'm planning to automate some application, right? I can automate my application if he has some coding knowledge or if he has some automation tool knowledge, right? Let us assume that my budget is like X amount. But if I add AI as well, AI support to it, right? Without any coding knowledge, I want the same resource to add and speed up the automation design or generating or healing or fixing out of the failures, right? Then again, it increases your budget because we need to also take licenses for some AI tools where whenever you're going to give any prompts or whenever you're going to take AI help, right? It also calls some APIs in the back end and those APIs are chargeable. So it again depends upon your program. It again depends upon your project where you're working. It means, see, there may be few projects where they may take initial help of your AI to speed up your script design and rest of the maintenance was handled by a human. There may be few projects where they need to handle end-to-end using AI. Then your budget of your project will increase. It means you're reducing your resources, but you're indirectly spending the same amount on taking licenses of those AI tools. It again depends upon your organization maturity and how they organize the things to speed up this automation testing, to leverage a quality product, to get a quality product. So these are the things. If you want to claim yourself as a Playwright automation tester, right? You need to go through all these, whatever that I have listed, right? This is what that you need to have knowledge to claim yourself as a full stack automation tester using Playwright. Okay, and the second important thing here is, and these tools, right? If you learn these list of tools, right? From 0 to 10 years, right? Even though if you are from 0 to 10 years, right? You can clear any interview with your expertise. That's what we have listed here. With this expertise, right? Anyone who has experience from 0 to 10 years, right? They can perform as an expert in that interview and they can quickly, it means it actually helps you to clear your clear your interviews. So anyway, I'm not into those I don't want to get into those things now. But this is your roadmap. As part of your roadmap, right? You need to make sure that you are learning this, even though you're doing a self-learning, or even though if you're learning from someone, even though if you're learning someone who is already working. So this should be your roadmap to claim yourself as an Playwright automation tester. Okay, and if you are not able to cover all these concepts, right, which are listed here, right, then my best suggestion is don't pick this tool as part of your learning. It's very simple. Okay, it's like nowadays, right? If you attend any interview, right, this is what the minimum expectation that what interviewers will expect if you're claiming yourself as an Playwright automation tester. So anyway, it is already a long run. We already done more than say 1 hour. So if you have any questions or if you have anything, right, please feel free to whatever, ask me if you want, right? You can unmute and you can ask me. I can help you with additional information. There is nothing because see, I am whatever. There are around 32 teams who virtually report to me in my organization, and I deal with different tools. There are different teams where based upon their application and their functionality, right, which should be evaluated as part of the testing, right? We use different tools. It's like we actually use robot with Selenium, we actually use PyTest, we actually use PyTest with Python with Selenium, or we actually use robot browser library, which is nothing but your Playwright robot library, where you can use a keyword approach to automate it. And we also use Cypress, and we also use Playwright with JS, TS, and as well as Python. So anything, right? If you're really working, or if you need any additional data on it, right, you can feel free to ask me now. So the next 10 to 15 minutes, right, we'll do a Q&A session. If you have any questions, right, I can help you with that info as well. Any questions, Karthik, Ramiana?
Hello, Suman Rajadhuri here from Chennai.
Yeah, please.
Yeah, actually, unfortunately, I missed a lot of portion in the session. So, would you please able to share me the recording of this session?
Yeah, sure. I will do that.
Yeah,
We'll get this recording.
I will contact Anita also once.
Yeah.
So, how about the business scope on this? The entire thing, yeah, prescription.
Sorry, sir, I didn't get you. Can you please come again?
No, I am asking about the business scope actually. So, I have around 15 years experience in the IT industry.
Yeah.
Where is a database as well as analytics, data science, and those specifically. So I work in the MNC projects more than 15 years. So I'm looking for some business opportunity using this AI new technology.
See, again, as I said, you right. See, AI is like which actually helps you to speed up the particular activity. Anything, it can be towards a product, or it can be towards development, or it can be towards your SRE or DevOps or testing, or towards automation, right? So here, right, see, we have some popular frameworks as well with respect to AI. Like you see, right, Crew.ai is also a predefined framework through which you can design an automated approach. It's like you can design an agentic AI approach where each agent has its own role to perform these actions. Okay, it's like, for example, let us say I'll give you an example. Let us say, right, in our current organization, right, we have completely automated our SDLC cycle. It means we don't have any manual intervention. Whenever our product or business, right, if they actually create any requirements as part of Jira, right, we had integrated such a way that we hit an API. That API will actually collect the complete story, requirement, documents, mockups, wireframes, which are attached to that particular. Based on that, it auto generates the test cases. And that file or the link that where it is auto generating, right, it will be also attached to the same story which was generated as part of our project. And it can be quickly reviewed by enabling human in loop. Like there may be some few testers who actually quickly go and check those generated test cases, and they will actually do some corrections if they think that there are few cases which are not required as part of testing. See, if I need to enable testing, right, we have a lot of metrics around it as well. It's like, see, for example, I'll say, let us say many people, right, in our real practice, right, one common thing that what we see here is many people concentrate on numbers, right? For example, if I see a story, right, many people say that we had already written 90 cases for it. It is also important whether your 90 cases is achieving proper coverage for that particular requirement. If it is not achieving proper coverage, right, there is no meaning in writing 90 or 200 cases for it. It means, see, even human can't think those edge scenarios or dependencies, right? So that can be easily, you can easily identify such checkpoints if you are using AI in that particular loop. So this is like one example. It means if I need to automate the end-to-end SDLC, right, means normally, right, we do planning, we do design, we do execution, we do reporting, and once that reporting has been done, right, we also give a pass where we say sign off or closure, right? This complete loop you can automate it using AI. But here, right, as part of this, right, the major concentration is towards automation. So I have only listed out the tools that where we actually use this We actually do this automation life cycle automation using these AI tools. You are getting me right?
Yeah, I'm getting actually. So, what would be the further step on this session?
Further step
Sorry
is
for
like,
asking.
yeah, I'll take it offline, Ramyan. So it's like,
Yeah,
this is
Rajendra.
a session towards only
Yeah,
automation.
sure. Yeah, once again, I will go through the entire thing. So, it is easy to catch you everything.
Sure. Please.